Hey friends, welcome back to Bible Fun with the Duds. Today we read Deuteronomy chapter 25.
We did.
And we are just super excited and proud of you guys for surviving the week of these super interesting laws in the book of Deuteronomy.
That's right.
If y'all had heard the teenager jokes around our house this week about how much he loves Deuteronomy,
Telling you.
it's too much.
Also, can I just say this? So we have a number of Sunday school classes in our church. They
Super
use our church
excited.
reading plan.
Can't wait for
and
Sunday.
then they go to Sunday school and they just kind of review what has everybody read, what's everybody's take, and let's talk about these passages. I wish I could be in every single class and just go, oh, tell me about Deuteronomy chapter 26 this week. Like we didn't read
That's
26.
not true.
That's next week. I wish I could be there because there's some really awkward passages here. But here's what I want to do. I want to end on a high note on chapter 25. This is another one of those chapters where it gives us just miscellaneous laws. And so the passage starts out basically by saying if there's a dispute between two people and they go to court. Now, I just want to remind you, when the Lord is giving a system of laws that is preparing people for the need for a court and trial system, then he knows that life will not be perfect because people are not perfect. But the Lord has taken time in this to kind of develop a law system, to develop a society of justice that not only finds the guilty guilty, but finds the innocent innocent. I want to just kind of point out a couple of things to you. For instance, look in verse number 3. It says, 40 blows he may give him and no more, lest he should exceed this and beat him with many blows above this, and your brother be humiliated in your sight. Now, let me just tell you this. This is a system where if a guy does something and he is found guilty, this would be a public beating. So not something we see every day, but this was judgment. Again, this is punishment to fit a crime. Now, remember, in the law is based on eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. But if there's been no eye loss, no tooth loss, there is still a system of judgment. But I'm going to tell you what I think most people miss out on. It's this idea that the Jewish people, if this system were used, they would only hit somebody 39 times. The maximum was 40, but they would stop at 39. And here's the idea. It's so that somebody wouldn't be humiliated. So dignity is still something that's preserved even in cases of the guilty. And so not only have they been found guilty, well, now they've been punished, but they're not, their sense of human dignity has not been taken from them. Well, then look at the very next verse. It's a weird how these tie in because they're really just bullet pointed together. You shall not muzzle an ox while it treads out the grain. Well, in doing this, it also preserves the dignity of the beast of burden, the ox itself. So if God has taken the time to even consider the care of animals, how much more does he value the correct treatment of people? I just think this whole system is really interesting. Let's get into the weirdest one. So if brothers dwell together and one of them dies and has no son, the widow of the dead man shall not be married to a stranger outside the family. Her husband's brother shall take her as a wife. And I'm going to be honest with you.
That's awkward.
That's a little weird. So notice this. This law also shows up in the New Testament, by the way. The Sadducees come to Jesus and ask about this law. And they were like, well, what if there are 7 brothers? Does she just kind of go through all 7 brothers if they're all dying? And they're coming to Jesus. You just have to read that scene. So this is a well-known law. What's interesting is the fact that having and raising children was highly valued in Israel. And in the book of Proverbs says that children are a heritage from the Lord. It's also one of those things I think is helpful today. When, let's hypothetically say you got one that's just really getting on your nerves. They're a heritage from the Lord and we should love them anyway. That's what I'm telling myself today. Okay, all right. So let's just move on. I did do some extra reading on this because this is such a weird passage, and there are stipulations for how a woman is supposed to be married to a brother-in-law if, in fact, this law is kept in Israel. Number one was this had to be a family living already as a family unit together, where there is a man married to a wife who also has a brother and other family members living in the same house. So you'll see that when it looks in verse 5 where it says, if brothers dwell together. So first of all, the idea was the woman would not be married off to a stranger, because what if the husband died and the woman was pregnant, but she didn't, it was so early in the pregnancy, she didn't know she was pregnant. And she went back home and they married her off in an arranged marriage, and maybe it was fast, to somebody else. Well, that guy would need to know that the baby that's being born was his baby or not his baby. So this was an idea where the children would carry on the name of the father. So they had to be living together, number one. She had to already be childless. So, like, if she's already got a child,
with the other,
she doesn't have to marry the brother. She also, and he had to be willing. Because remember in the story of Ruth, there was a kinsman redeemer in front of Boaz, and he goes, no, I'm not going to marry her. So this is not just like a system of just keep passing on. That's not what this is about. This is about a family not losing their place within the promised land. Because remember, God gave the tribes the land, and as the land passed down through the generations, it was passed down to children. Well, what if an entire family, what if a family's name was wrapped up and they disappeared because they had no offspring? That family would just disappear.
Reminds me of the guy with all the daughters and no sons.
That's right, Zelophehad and his daughters. That's right. So even made provision for that going into the promised land.
Also, I feel like it cares for the widow also, because there's not really a way for women to take care of themselves. The husband does. The sons do. The
That's
kids
right.
do.
And so let not a widow be forgotten in Israel.
Which is like the chapter
That's
we
right.
talked about yesterday.
Notice, going down to verse 13, you shall not have in your bag differing weights, a heavy and a light weight. You shall not have in your house differing measures, large and small. But you shall have a perfect and just weight, a perfect and just measure, that your days may be lengthened in the land which the Lord your God has given you. So this is about their business. So business must be honest. God's people shouldn't cheat each other. They shouldn't just do anything they can to get ahead. This would create an unfair system and take advantage of people. And this is not what God had planned for his people. Particularly in verse number 15, it's saying that shady business is actually a spiritual issue. And Israelites who cheated others were actually cheating themselves, because they're disconnecting fellowship between the authority of God over them and the way they're living their lives. But my favorite piece about this is down in verses 17 through the end of the chapter. It says, and remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you were coming out of Egypt, how he met you on the way and attacked you in the rear ranks of your group, and all the stragglers at the rear when they were tired and weary, and he did not fear God. This is a shot at the actions of the enemy. So the people of Amalek were the enemy who acted dishonorably. They didn't go into battle with Israel. They attacked the weak and the weary travelers of Israel. And the previous law, this law is really put into place to say, Israel, when you get to the promised land, you are supposed to be a light to the nations. You are not supposed to be like the nations. Be a light, but do not be like. This whole system is designed in a way, always treat the weak and the defenseless with dignity and treat them humanely. This is not a system where you just kill or be killed. This is a system where you are supposed to love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I think that's the key to all of this. And so we'll keep reading next week, and hope you enjoyed Deuteronomy. All right, we'll see you Sunday. Bye.
Bye.